Intuitive to the Stars by John Istel. Elsie opens the refrigerator, opens the vegetable crisper, closes it, opens the other crisper where we keep fruit, closes it. I say, he was more elderly than I imagined. Elsie reopens the first crisper and pulls out an old bag of pre-mixed salad greens, old enough that the brown juices have gathered in a bottom corner of the plastic. I say, I'd never seen him. Salt and pepper beard, right? Trimmed. Looks like a 5 and dime Sigmund Freud, no bigger than a tobacco store Indian. Elsie opens the bin with a stomp of her right foot, swinging of the round steel mouth wide. With the bag of dead salad makings between her thumb and forefinger, Elsie lets it drop, wrinkling her nose, which then begins to twitch and flutter. She sneezes. I say, that's all I'll divulge. I've seen him several times since. So odd. At first, I thought he must live in our building. Elsie removes her nail file from her purse and places it on our new Carrara marble counter and spins it with the tip of her red lacquered index finger. Is she warning me away from the subject? I say, he's nice enough. Oh, don't get me wrong. Oh, he's a real gentleman. He gave me his card. I pull it from the breast pocket of my blazer. It's almost in tatters because I played a game on the train home, seeing how many times I could fold it. Someone once told me it was impossible to fold a piece of paper in half more than 8 times. I am nothing if not a competitive man. I read to her from the card, Intuitive to the Stars. Elsie snatches it from my hand, and I guess that sets me off. I grab her hair as she turns from me, wheel her round, and bend her neck back like I'm Bela Lugosi or something. I understand the power of knives, and Elsie, being a gourmet cook, has many lined up from which to choose. A little slicer, I think. When I let her go, she stares at me, snorting. Her eyes wild like an Arabian horse, frightened, pawing sawdust in a circus ring. She purses her mouth, tight-lipped, as if her refusal to speak might wound me. But I've heard more than enough from her. I say, I liked cauchery, soothingly, hiding the horsewhip. I say, in fact, I liked the word intuitive so much I looked him up on the net. Quite a collection of stars, his clients. George Hamilton, Carrie Fisher, Bobby Goldsboro. Let me realign your emotional vertebrae. Put the spine back in your spirit. I liked that. Clever. Spine in your spirit. Elsie slumps onto one of the designer bar stool kitchen chairs at the prep island. I explain how I stopped cauchery after I saw him leaving the building for maybe the 14th time, just as I came home last week. I'd started to anticipate his appearances in the lobby or popping out of an elevator, a comforting, rare, streaking comet. Sometimes I held the door for him as he exited in a scurry. Other times I'd see him turning a corner just as I approached. No matter where, He was always leaving just as I arrived. The fun had to stop. I tell my tale. It was 3:30 p.m. on a cloudy April afternoon. A few mothers with strollers on West End Avenue, some Orthodox Jewish families on their way to temple for Passover. A Chinese food delivery man with someone's late lunch, I guessed. Cotchery was waiting for the light to change. I say, you look awfully familiar. Are we neighbors? He avoided my gaze, so I knew instantly. Or should I say, intuitively. Everything blurred when he smiled. I saw how beautifully his capped teeth were set, tight, one against the other. I sit on the stool next to Elsie, put a reassuring hand on her knee. Oh, Elsie, he's a night grinder, I'm sure. He contains subconscious strata of stress, cavern pools of aggression. He's probably broken bathroom cabinet mirrors, slamming them with a rage that he doesn't recognize in himself. After I stopped him, he introduced himself. I'm Cotchery Jericho, and I don't believe we've met. Intuitive to the stars. You probably recognized me from the Today Show last week, he says. I say, no, actually. I never watch television before 10 p.m. because it's generally too puerile. I believe you're more familiar than that. Well, I never forget a client, he assures me. Maybe Oprah back in December? I shake my head, partly to clear my thoughts. He starts to stride away. I call out and ask for his card. He pirouettes and presents a card from his breast pocket to me with a little curtsy, a bow, a fucking little Japanese bow! That's when I recognized his cologne, Armani Code. He must have practically bathed in it, because it wafts straight into my nostrils. It's a scent that I don't have the ego to wear myself, and always mentally categorize it like a BMW 750i as a product only a true douchebag would own. Elsie spills her purse onto the counter, perhaps looking for her pocket mace, which I removed before she left for work this morning. I continue. I was sure I smelt Armani Code last Thursday in our hall bathroom, but I dismissed the incident as an olfactory hallucination. But my nose wasn't deceiving me, was it, Elsie? As I detail to Elsie these very elementary conclusions regarding the nature of this snake charmer's visit to our building, to our very apartment, now based not solely on intuition, but also on our physical encounter and exchange on the corner, she stands up and backs up by the wall-mounted phone. Her shoulder hits it and the receiver falls. She puts her finger to her mouth, shushing me like Marion the librarian, only her mallard dark, teary eyes go dark, surrounded by cascading black-gray Susan Sontag hair. I start nodding. I know it's going to be all right. She starts nodding slowly too. So we both know. We both know something, but don't yet understand the nature of our knowledge. The phone softly sputters an arpeggio of beeps. Then, "There seems to be a receiver off the hook. Please hang up and try again." "Don't you think," I say to Elsie, "don't you think that in this cellular digital age they changed that message since there are no longer hooks on phones and so few receivers?" Elsie's eyes brim with tears. Oh, so sad, I think, so maudlin. The phone commences a new cycle of pathetic quaking and bleeding. I remove my jacket very deliberately and fold it in on itself as if I were placing it on the back seat of our Saab before driving off to a funeral or retirement party. I lay it on the kitchen table, now dappled with buttery sun from the lengthening afternoon. I walk carefully to the phone, as if not to wake some imaginary baby, and replace the receiver in its cradle. Elsie and I are then toe to toe, and I can smell the dew of her tears on her breath. We finally arrived on the ritual altar of matrimonial harakiri. I say, "I have done nothing but love you for these entire 11 years. Elsie starts shaking her head from side to side. "No, no, no." Like when I tried to speak to her late at night when she was working on a brief. Her starched white blouse is pooching out of the waistband of her navy pencil skirt. I say, 11 years. Every Saturday morning, I bought you a box of Krispy Kremes. I swept the leaves and bird guano from our little Juliet balcony, our only window on the natural world. I bought you 1-cent stamps to make your old ones whole, then bought more 2-cent stamps when the price rose again. I helped birth your stray feral cats, kittens, with whom I in no way wanted to share this apartment. Elsie's turning red, as if she were holding her breath. In fact, she is holding her breath, determined and stubborn, a kid in a car driving past the endless blur of woodlawn cemetery. I sidle to the stove, our spanking new Viking stove that never worked properly and on which we've rarely cooked. We have a microwave, you see. I say, "Would you like some tea?" as we take turns calling our lawyers. She says nothing. I say, "Well, I would like some tea. Making tea will be my attempt to act like a civilized beast, when I really would rather just act a beast and rip your bloody heart out and eat it!" I take an Ohio blue tip and swipe it hard across the flint on the side of the box. My hand shakes. The match bursts into flame, and I lower it to the burner under the tea kettle. At that moment, Elsie's breath gives out and gives a veritable gale of air, blows out my match. Like hail before a tornado, that exhalation lights a fire under her diaphragm. And she wails and sobs, accuses me of emotional blackmail and stolidity. Yes, she says stolidity, which I'm not certain is even a word. Accuses me of a lot of other nonsense. Hysterics. Hamlet would say, "Oh, this too stolid flesh." I watch the smoke curling away from the blackened match tip. After ripping a square of paper towel from the roll on the wall, I think of saying something sour like, "It's time to wipe up the mess you've made." I think of punching her in the gut. Instead, I just hand her the piece of paper to wipe the mucus from her face. Clearly, I am not the monster in this marriage. I reach into the box for another match. It's true, isn't it? You can't make tea without lighting a fire, without setting water a-boil. Elsie honks her nose into the paper towel while I light the imbecilic burner. I pull a mug down and rummage for a pouch of orchid oolong. Why aren't there proper rites to relieve emotional stress? Has the whole history of human psychological and emotional development been distilled to such a sordid moment as this? There should be some sort of tea ceremony for bloody betrayal. Is this the best humankind can do? To my left, the knives lie neatly scabbarded in their butcher block. To my right, the cleavers and meat pulverizers hibernate in the drawer. I say, we control our destinies, Elsie. As if on cue, the whistle of the tea kettle whines for mercy, and the second I cut the flame, it gurgles quiet. I say, Elsie dear, so you know, I've changed the locks. These new ones must be opened from the inside with a key. In order to exit, there is only one key. It's in my pocket. So please, don't think of trying to run off. We have much to settle. I see Elsie's color rise up her neck. Her eyes search for something to throw. The good news, I say? My intuition tells me that personal matters, all matters really, will be settled rather shortly.